Welcome to the Miami Sports Vibes YouTube channel. Week 1 is in the books, and the Miami Dolphins with a thrilling victory, 20-17 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. What a damn game, man. I mean, talk about a tale of two halves. Talk about a half where the Dolphins looked like they were potentially going to lose this game. And what a turnaround from the team. The whole second half was incredible. I mean, how about the defense in the second half? I mean, there are so many critical plays that led into this team picking up the victory and then leaving it on the leg of Jason Sanders to nail a 52-yard field goal to win the game. It's absolutely a thrilling victory, a victory that the Dolphin fans like myself will absolutely take. But dang, even in week 1, the heart is racing. The passion is there. The sweat was there. And I know for damn sure I was not alone. Half of you guys, all of you Dolphin fans, I'm sure, were pretty damn nervous when Sanders went there to kick the game-winning field goal. But shout out to the Dolphins. I mean, this win is huge for the Dolphins. We talked about it on my live stream earlier this week about how important it was to start the season off 1-0. You're better than this Jaguars team. You got Buffalo on a short week on Thursday. You don't want to potentially go 0-2 to start the season. And there are just so many things that I'm just so damn proud of. Obviously, I would like the game a little bit cleaner, which we'll get into that in a minute. But overall, I mean, the resiliency in this Dolphins team to be able to, surrender 17 points in the first half, and then lock the Jaguars down to scoring 0 in the second half. Talk about timely turnovers. Talk about timely pressures on the quarterback. Talk about timely sacks. Talk about Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland. I mean, 2 guys that we drafted, that making big plays. That punch by Javon Holland to save a touchdown. The Jaguars were on their way to having 24 points on the board. We could have lost the game if it wasn't for Javon Holland. Jalen Phillips coming back, getting a sack there late in the game to force us to get the ball, which ended up leading to us scoring the field goal to win the game. I mean, there's just so many highlights, so many key plays. It's just a great team victory, man. Tyreek Hill getting into the end zone after what had happened with him before the game, being in handcuffs. I mean, you can't make the stuff up as a Dolphin fan. You really can't. Tua played a solid game. It was Alec Engel too. I mean, man, I was texting my uncle and I said, I'm giving it to Alec Engel every 3rd or 4th and 1. I mean, that is literally a cheat code. He's a freaking tank. It's truly remarkable. I mean, so many guys get the game ball for me. I thought Jeff Wilson was solid late. He picked up a big run. His first carry was like 14 yards. We desperately needed that because the run game was non-existent. McDaniel running the ball. I mean, let's talk about it, man. So the first half was a little bit stressful. Obviously, we'll start with the first half. Talk about that leading into the end of the game. So key notes that I took away in the first half, man. First of all, Jacksonville punching early, picking up the lead early. And what I noticed was the Jaguars were consistently throwing it Jalen Ramsey's way. They knew that he was dealing with a hamstring injury. And, an opponent is always going to attack that. It's not their fault. If you're going to put a guy out there that's compromised, that the smartest thing to do is to test them. And that's exactly what the Jaguars did. Testing Jalen Ramsey. You saw him pick up a pass interference down at the 1 against Brian Thomas, which was not good. That led to a touchdown score by the Jacksonville Jaguars. You saw the following time and the following drive after that, Jalen Ramsey again, gets beat by Brian Thomas. He scores a touchdown, barely got the feet in bound. But I was noticing that they were really attacking. And then even Tank Bigsby laid him down on the ground. I mean, Ramsey got stiff-armed. I was like, damn. This is rough, which is to be expected. I mean, a guy dealing with a hamstring injury and playing a professional football game at full speed, you're gonna get challenged out there. So that's one thing that I noticed that the Jaguars were really doing in the first half. I thought Tank Bigsby played a solid game for them, and the stats at halftime read off as this. Trevor Lawrence had 125 passing yards at the half. Bigsby with the 31 yards, as I mentioned, he had a solid little half. Brian Thomas Jr., like I mentioned, 4 catches for 47 and a touchdown. Could have had more if it wasn't for that pass interference. So in reality, I mean, Brian Thomas had a bigger impact than what the stats show. But for the Miami Dolphins that first half, I mean, terrible. I mean, look at the running game. Non-existent. Achane with 8 yards, Raheem Mostert with 7 yards. That's 15 total yards combined from the running backs. I mean, it was terrible. Tua with 131 yards. We had one touchdown, which was an Achane touchdown. He was the only bright spot when it comes to offense. You see him down low catching four catches for 60 yards. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, both superstar wide receivers at this point, finishing with 32 yards at the half. I thought that was alarming. I thought the offensive line kind of played decent in pass protection in the first half, ladies and gentlemen. So don't beat me up for that. This is just my opinion. I thought in the first half, the offensive line played solid with pass protection. And by that, I mean Tua had some time. Tua also made a lot of mistakes. He overthrew Tyreek Hill for a touchdown. You could have had 7 on that. Obviously, a couple of drop passes. There was another overthrow that I saw. It wasn't an amazing first half for the offensive line. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that Tua had some time to do some things, and there's the offense in all, it looked out of sync. You could blame it on preseason, not getting enough reps, the timing, things are a little bit off. So be it. Point blank is I thought the offensive line looked out of sync. Durham Smythe, another guy, he was dropping catches. He was getting penalties. I just don't understand it. Now we lead to the second half, right? The second half, which is where everything changed. Dolphins going in, trailing 17-7. Things have to happen. Waddle gets going on a big play. You think, momentum is starting to shift, but then Tua gets sacked. We get out of field goal range. At that point, now is where I think all Dolphin fans started to, really start to get pissed off. Well, at least for me. I was pretty confident throughout, but once Tua took that sack and got out of field goal range, that is when things started to change. You see Jacksonville go downhill all the way after that. Then they're in the goal line, right? This is the play I was talking about earlier, right? They're in the goal line. They net this touchdown. They're up 24-7, a whole new different game. And I was telling my uncle, and I said, this right here is where you need one of those Brian Flores type of turnovers. And I know a lot of people hate Brian Flores, all right? So just listen to what I'm saying here. What I mean by that is that, do you remember when Brian Flores was our head coach and the turnovers that he would get? He would get these turnovers that were just straight out of luck and out of nowhere at the right time, every single time. And the Dolphins would capitalize on that. Boom. Exactly what happened. Javon Holland punches it out, forces a fumble right where the Jaguars were going to score a touchdown. Dolphins recovered. Right after that, Tyreek Hill gets hit with an 80-yard freaking bomb. He's out. The cheetah is loose, and the whole momentum just starts to shift from there. You always mention in basketball that defense leads to offense, but how about that in the NFL? Nice play by Javon Holland. Dolphins capitalize, get an 80-yard touchdown. Now the crowd is getting into it. And now the defense starts to turn it up a whole nother level where they don't even look back, forcing a couple sacks, pressures on the quarterback, turnovers on downs. Jalen Ramsey looks back. He doesn't look to be like he's dealing with a hamstring injury at all. I don't know if he took some shots at the half or what, but the defense just turned the hell up from there. Jason Sanders ends up getting an opportunity to tie the game, misses that wide left, of course. But what happens after that? The Dolphins defense comes through again. And that is one thing I saw from the Miami Dolphins defense that I give all credit to the coaching staff. I mean, their ability to just change the game. And by the way, let's talk about the offensive line. The offensive line played a terrible second half, in my opinion. So I do want to say that there. Don't think that I gave credit and I forgot about them. I guess they're only worth giving you a solid half, not a great half, a solid half. And that was it, because the offensive line was bad in the second half. But man, talk about the resiliency from this team, the offense to just grind, and the defense to get constant stops after a bad first half. Talk about adjustments made. I mean, the defense came through again, and then late when you freaking needed it. I mean, Jalen Phillips and Agba, Agba, who wasn't even going to be on the team to start the year, he gets the call after Shaq Barrett. He produces a sack. And then, listen, Jalen Phillips with a sack. Listen, first game back after popping his Achilles on Black Friday against the New York Jets. Nobody deserved a moment more than Jalen Phillips, man. You guys saw it on Hard Knocks, the way he was so emotional, man. Your heart fell for him. I mean, talk about the impact that Jalen Phillips had. I thought this was just a remarkable team freaking win all around. I mean, it makes me so happy as a Dolphin fan. I think every Dolphin fan should be happy. Regardless, people could try to, the haters will say, oh, it's the Jags. You're supposed to beat them. Listen, every win in the NFL is hard as hell. And if we lost this game, people would talk smack. So don't listen to that. I think this is, winning this way means something. And this is exactly why I think Dolphin fans should be excited heading into week 2. This is great. Like, a test was answered. You were tested today. Down 10. Sanders missing a field goal, you were tested. You can be down 24-7, you were tested. Jalen Phillips, can you make an impact after an injury? You were tested. Tua, are you going to play a clean game? No turnovers for Tua. No turnovers. A couple of overthrown passes, but second half was a different Tua. And the Miami Dolphins finished with 336 yards for Tua, 1 touchdown. You see it there. Jeff Wilson, which I gave credit to earlier, that 14-yard carry, his first carry of the game was huge. He finishes with 26 yards. HN in the run game, only 25 yards rushing, did pick up the touchdown. Tua scrambled for 11. Ingold, 2 carries, 9 yards. But when I tell you they were both first down conversions, this is where you got to watch the game to understand. Alec Ingold, shout out to him. 2 carries for 9 yards, but they were a big 9 yards right when the Dolphins needed it. Mostert with 9 yards. Waddle with 3 on a sweep. Tyreek ended up with 7 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. So he went from 32 yards at the half, finishing with 130. Jalen Waddle, big game, 5 catches for 108. Another guy that had 32 yards and ended up with over 100. And then Devon Achane, man, 7 catches for 75 yards to go with his 25 yards rushing. That's 100 yards and a touchdown total for Achane. And like I mentioned, man, overall, great freaking win for the Dolphins. I think you Dolphin fans should be pumped up, should be excited, because it's not about them just beating the Jaguars. It's about how they beat the Jaguars and how this 1-0 start now. You're going to have a good rest of the week. You can enjoy the rest out of Sunday, and it's on to the Buffalo Bills after this. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a battle, but it's all about one game at a time. And I think that this was just a great team win. This was a great team win. Guys, make sure to hit the thumbs up button to support the channel. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. I will have live streams every week and post games just like this one each and every time after the Dolphins game. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well. Sports Vibes 305. You see it there. See you guys next time. Go Dolphins.